This week on Shift Points, I get Dad to talk you through a carburetor freshen up. Parking outside, and there was a ton of He started this project. Found a piece of brass he's going to take. Alright everyone, so if you guys remember a few months ago now, we had a carburetor come in and it had the squirter threads had been stripped out of it. And we helicooled it and got it fixed, put it back into service. Well, that same carburetor has come in again. It had kind of a weird little stutter coming up off, wouldn't really idle, wouldn't run, kind of a few different things we thought were kind of weird on it. I thought this might be a good time to kind of take you guys through what Dad does to a carburetor when it comes in, especially one like this. He can kind of go through what he does just to freshen one up and get it ready for a race season. This thing's running on a circle track motor, so we'll jump into it now.
Good friends of ours run a circle track car.
Carburetor, it's a VDL, it's a real nice blueprinted carburetor they use on a circle track car. This is for a crate engine, a 602 Chevrolet crate engine. It's a 650 Holley, like I say, VDL blueprinted it, and they do real nice work, but they run into some problems with the foam. Some low quality foam disintegrated, and you can see part of what we're into. They put the carburetor on the engine and cranked it, and they said it wouldn't idle. It wouldn't, even after it warmed up, it was having problems with the idle, and it just didn't act right, didn't accelerate like it wanted it to. Normally these things have really got good throttle response. So the throttle response had kind of went away, the idle quality had went completely away, and it was completely due to the foam disintegrating in the cell and it even got through a real high quality filter on this thing, and it still got through that filter enough to get into the float bowls and all the circuits, the fuel circuits in the carburetor. So we're in the process now to just get that thing apart. We're going to replace the power valves, make sure everything's real clean, all the air passages is clean, and make sure we get all this disintegrated foam out of this carburetor.
And just for reference, so if you don't know, like in race car stuff, like the 55 here with our fuel cell, and like he was saying with the circle track stuff, all the fuel cells have this foam inside of the tank itself. And basically what that does is allow that fuel not to slosh around inside of the fuel cell. If that's sloshing around, well, first off, in a circle track car, you're trying to keep all your weight and stuff, pretty fixed. You want to know where everything is. If you have a pretty good amount of weight, especially in a circle track car, you're probably putting 22 gallons of gas sloshing back and forth. It can cause a lot of craziness. And the other thing it does is make sure that it doesn't run away from the fuel pickup. It helps with that at least. So this is what that foam looks like. This is the foam actually out of our Jazz fuel cell that's going in the 55. We pulled this out, and we had done that while we were working on the fuel cell, but then after we found out about this deal, we're going to make sure we get some good high quality foam and put in this so it doesn't try and do the same thing, disintegrate, and then run through our fuel system, run up into our carburetor on this car too. So this is kind of a good lessons learned kind of thing. So Dad went ahead and pulled the secondaries off of this thing also, and you can see that foam has made its way through the whole thing, just as you'd expect, of course, but just interesting to kind of see this in here. And then we're going to take and clean all this out real good. Crazy where all this foam has gotten into. This is where the power valve actually screws into the plate here, and you can see it's literally laying on that surface there. I mean, it is literally everywhere. It's on the screws. Stuff like this just is kind of a nightmare whenever you're trying to work on a carburetor. It's or work on any carburetor that's sensitive like this. But man, it's amazing how that stuff can just get absolutely everywhere. Further into this thing we get, the more trash we find. This is where the accelerator pump sits there, and it's absolutely full of stuff. Here's a good point where we can inspect our previous job to this thing. Looks like the helical is holding up pretty well. Squirters have trash in them too. That'll have to blow those out with some air. But that right there looks pretty good.
Another thing, you gotta make sure we put that back.
Just using some gum out carb cleaner on this. On the boosters, yeah. Dad's been getting these carburetor kits from AED. It's for 4150 Holley pump renew kit. Anyway, this is kind of what he's been going with. They have these really good kits he's been using for a while now. So get this thing busted open, kind of go through it, and I'll get him to talk you through kind of what all he's doing, why he's doing it. I think I showed you guys last time when we were working on the helical. I can't exactly remember, but I want to show you this again. Dad's going to show you, he's going to test these power valves and make sure that they're not busted. He's got a handheld vacuum pump here that he uses for that. So I'm going to let him talk you through that again. If it is again, if it's not, because I can't remember, then you'll just get to relearn it.
On these particular power valves, I'm not really checking for them being broke because it's coming out of a brand new kit. What I'm checking for is how accurate they're marked. They've got vacuum markings on them as to where they open. When the vacuum drops below the number that's marked on the power valve, it should open. So I check for that to make sure, see how accurate they are. I try to check all that stuff in these things because on this motor, it's got the camshaft's not very big, so it don't need really a low number vacuum for it to open. It can open a little bit sooner because the vacuum is higher. So that's what I'm checking for right now.
And that number is in inches of mercury,
yes,
right? Unit?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And this is what?
This is a 4.5.
Okay.
And this vacuum gauge tells me where they shut and where they open. And I just try to see how close they are. See if I can make this go down very slow. Right there's 4.5. And it's starting to open. And I'm gonna go back. You have to look very carefully, but you can see that, you can see the power valve opening and closing. There it's completely shut. It's totally shut at 5 inches of mercury. And it starts opening right about where it's supposed to. So the other thing on these particular power valves, I use they got a standard flow, and they've got these that are they call them high flow, pro flow valves, or a 4-window. These windows here allow more fuel to get into the intake manifold than the standard flows have got 2 windows. These have got 4, so these are a little higher flow power valves. Makes a little bit of difference when they open. So anyway.
So this thing was doing really well on the track before this foam got into it and kind of caused all the craziness. So Dad's going to end up just putting this thing right back where it was. We're not doing any sort of changes to the jets or pump squirters or anything like that. So all of that's going to stay the same. And he's working on starting to go back the other direction with this. You can see he's got the kit broke open. It has some new gaskets in it. We'll use these. These blue ones are the reusable gaskets. And we did see here that there is a little bit of a change in the gaskets versus the old ones. If we kind of lay these over each other, you can see the brown one was what was there, and then the blue one is the one that'll go back in it. And it looks like they've done some changes to them, kind of made that shape more oval in the blue one. And that seal is sealing up here at the screws a little bit better. Or there's a lot more material around them there, so they have some thought behind that. So we're definitely going to use these new ones, and those should work really well. So we're adjusting the idle air bleeds here, and we have the screwdriver that WAF Racing sent us, and it's to help get this, to make sure you keep everything adjusted. It's a pretty neat little tool. Dad knows with this carburetor that it actually works better one full turn off of the seat. This screw does, instead of the 1.5 that's usually kind of recommended. But if we use this tool here, you can see you have those numbers on it. You can go around the diameter or the circumference of the screwdriver, and it makes sure you don't get lost. Make sure that you can see that you know you need those full turns, one full turn, and it helps you keep track of that when you're making minor changes across the carburetor. It's a really neat little piece.
It'll be much more valuable when the carburetor's on the engine.
Yeah, that's very true. They are the same guys that use that make those carburetor covers that I showed you guys on the Galaxy the other day, and the spark plug holders and stuff. They're in Nashville. Cool dudes, and it's a neat little tool. So what are you looking for here when you're setting these bolts?
Level. This has to go down to approximately there. Onto top of this float, level with this.
Okay.
Adjust it with the nut. You lock that with the screw.
Okay.
That's what locks it. This is the adjuster.
Okay. So you loosen the screw, then you can twist the nut to make
The
adjustments.
screw locks the nut so the nut don't turn.
Gotcha.
The nut, when the nut turns, it changes the height of the float bowl.
Gotcha. Now he gets to do all of that for the other side, and we'll be ready to put this thing back together. So if you guys remember how we fixed this helical one over here, we had to put a different screw type in there. So we had to make sure that we put that hollow screw back in there, because that's what allows that fuel to flow up through that and into the squirter now. So we had to be real particular, make sure we get that put back in the helical side of the carburetor, or there would be no fuel flow there. So now we're ready to put the metering plates back on. Bowl back on and make sure that that lever
Okay.
okay, got screws here. Bolts them. Screws. Oh, okay.
Don't matter.
Yeah, I know. So you saw us making sure that this lever was up whenever we were putting this together. And that's because if this is not above this arm right here, it's not going to work right. You're going to have to take this whole assembly back apart to get it back up here, because there's no way to do it without taking this apart. So that's why we were being particular about keeping this arm pushed up, so that the accelerator pump here lever is actually under this arm. So I was just telling you that we were making sure the accelerator pump arm was where it needed to be, and got me thinking potentially there's someone on here that doesn't even know what an accelerator pump is, and that's where this guy is going to tell you right now.
An accelerator pump just kind of covers up a lean spot if you just snap a throttle, especially like on a circle track car. It's very critical. When you come off the corner, you snap the throttle open, The butterfly is open. Well, that goes incredibly lean because a lot more air can get into the intake manifold before the fuel gets there. So Holley fixed that, and people that designed this carburetor fixed that by using an accelerator pump, which is this lever here, attached to this well, which is the pump is actually inside this. It fills up with fuel out of the bowl, runs into this cavity, this pump cavity, through circuitry, through back into the main body of the carburetor. It puts fuel into these two pump squirters. This is called a pump discharge nozzle. Fuel comes out of these holes here in this discharge nozzle, pumps fuel into the primary sides of the carburetor it kind of overcomes, makes it a little bit rich, makes it a lot rich on the initial throttle opening. This particular carburetor, this one is called a double pumper. It has accelerator pumps in the rear, but on this particular carburetor, they're not using that rear accelerator pump because of the coming off the corner. It's a little bit too much fuel when they're coming off the corner, and they just snap the throttle wide open. So they're not utilizing that secondary pump on this particular application.
Just in case I didn't show you guys whenever we were putting this thing together, this is what the diaphragm of the accelerator pump actually looks like. This is a 50 cc versus the 30s that are in this carburetor that these are made for. There you go, there's a 30. So you can see that, and that fuel goes here, and then whenever the lever is engaged, that pushes this and forces that fuel up through there like Dad was talking about. But that's what is actually seated inside of that housing right there. All right, guys, I hope you guys learned something this week. This is always good for me. I've been sitting here with Dad. He's went through these a lot, but I seem to learn something, or kind of maybe I retain a little bit more of it each time he does it. So hope you guys learned something from this, kind of going through the carburetor, a little bit of carburetor 101 with the accelerator pump there also. So we appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's very useful for us. We're going to try, and I hope you guys are liking the format that we're doing now, with a little bit more specific for each video, so you guys can kind of take that in, and you guys are watching more of them like that. So that's always a good thing. So I hope you guys are enjoying it that way, making sure we're keeping these broke up, keep you guys engaged with them. Follow us on social media. That is also a big help. We have over 5,000 followers on Instagram, which just kind of blows my mind that there's 5,000 people that are interested in some of the stuff that we do, and that's really, really cool as well. So thank you guys so much. See you next week. Hit that subscribe button.